Hey, distinction students, your perfect tutor here, Mr. Gilbert CJ. So, in this week, we are looking at a very important topic in civic education, which is poverty in Zambia. The subtopics: 1. Definition and perspective of poverty; 2. Poverty measurement; and 3. Causes of poverty in Zambia. That's all for part 1. So, we'll go straight into discussing the topic. What is poverty? What is poverty? This term is very common, though many people tend to misinterpret it. So, poverty is a condition of not having enough resources to meet the basic needs of life. We said basic needs are things people cannot survive without. So when you are lacking resources to meet those basic needs such as food, clothes, shelter, and water, then you are said to be poor. Poor condition known as poverty. Now, there are two types of what? Poverty. There is absolute poverty and relative poverty. Absolute poverty is a condition of life so limited by malnutrition, illiteracy, disease, squalid surroundings, high infant mortality rates, and low life expectancy. Low life expectancy. These things are just adding to one definition here: lacking basic needs or lack of access to basic needs. So absolute poverty is where you have no access to basic needs. That's why there is malnutrition, there is illiteracy, disease, quality surroundings, high infant mortality rates, and low life expectancy. Those things are coming as a result of what? Lacking basic needs. I can bring an example of lacking food. You lack what? You lack food, then you can suffer from malnutrition. That's how these conditions are coming about. The second one is relative poverty. Relative poverty is the state in which a person lacks the least amount of income required to maintain the normal standard of living. The least amount of income required to maintain the normal standard of living. You are getting a 500 kwacha per month, but at home your consumption costs 1000 kwacha. 1000 kwacha. So the amount or the income you are getting is not enough to maintain the normal standard of living. Hence, that is what? Relative poverty. Relative poverty. Now, measuring poverty. Poverty can be measured using three perspectives here. The first one is income perspective. How can you know that this person is poor? 1. A person is poor if his or her income falls below a defined money or metric poverty line. Below a defined money. E.g., a person living on $1 per day. $1 per day. That is 16 point something in Zambian kwacha. What can you buy? What can you buy in 16 kwacha? Can you use 16 kwacha for the whole day, including lunch, supper, and everything? So that is income perspective. You measure the income of a person. 2. Basic needs perspective. A person is poor if his or her requirements for a minimal acceptable fulfillment of human needs are not met. Are you having access to human needs? Are you having access to food, water, shelter? When they look at that, they can measure the poverty that you're having. Capability perspective. A person is poor if he or she lacks certain capabilities to function, such as adequate food, clothing, shelter, and ability to participate in community. Ability to participate in community. That is capability perspective. You lack capabilities to function. For example, when you don't have food, can you work? There is no food at home. Can you work? If they say, for example, at school, at a community school, there is work requiring you to give support there, you should go there as well. You work. Can you go there? Can you go without eating? It's not possible. Can you go without dressing? Can you go if you don't sleep in a very good shelter? That's not possible. Hence, your ability to participate in the community will be like minimized. To be minimized, your abilities. These are the three perspectives we can use to measure what? Poverty. Now, there is human poverty index. Apart from having those three perspectives, there is what we call human poverty index, HPI. HPI was developed by the United Nations Development Program. It measures what? Poverty in terms of deprivation of the following areas. It measures poverty in terms of deprivation of the following areas. Areas such as what? Survival or life expectancy. Deprivation of a long life and health life measured by life expectancy of about 40 years. So we have life expectancy. The estimated one is in 40 years. 40 years. Then 2 is knowledge. Deprivation of knowledge measured by what? Illiteracy. Illiteracy is where someone lacks knowledge about something. Literacy. Remember they say utu. That's illiteracy. Then the last one is a decent standard of living. A decent standard of living. Deprivation in economic provision measured by the percentage of the population lacking access to health services and safe drinking water. Also adequate nutrition. These are the three things that the HPI use when measuring what? Poverty. 1, survival. That is life expectancy. 2, knowledge. The last one is a decent standard of what? Living. 3 things. So these are just things which can be used to measure what? Poverty. But these 3 here are used by the what? By the HPI. These 3 are used by the HPI, the Human Poverty Index. It is aimed at measuring what? Poverty. I think we're together on that one, students. So, apart from talking about the HPI, let us talk about the characteristics of poverty. How can you know that this person is poor? 1, personal and physical status. What do you mean when you say personal and physical status? A person has no food or does not eat well. Always is chunks, always chunks, always chunks, always chunks, from 1 to 30 chunks, 1 to 30 chunks. Has no food or does not eat well. Or even those who have got chunks, they are even well. They are even better. They are even better. Some, they don't even have chunks. They have no relish. They have no relish. They have no relish. Then lack access to education. Lack access to education. Your parents can't take you to school. It's free education, but your parents can't just afford to buy a uniform and books so that you go to school. That is poverty. Lack of access to adequate shelter. How is your house? Lack of access to what? To adequate shelter. When it is the rainy season, it's disaster. Lack of access to health care. Poor clothing. Poor clothing. Torn trousers, torn what? T-shirts. Poor clothing. That is when we talk about personal and physical status. Personal and physical status. Then 2 is economic status. Economic what? Status. Lack of money or adequate income. Urban areas. Tomato is 5 kwacha. Onion is 5 kwacha. These are just simple things. Simple things you can just access when you are in the village or in the rural areas. But when you are in urban areas, you are getting eka 1000 kwacha. 1000 kwacha. You buy relish, you buy milimi watichanchanico, you buy tomatoes, you'll find that this will be demolished. So all in all, what am I trying to say here? Lack of money or adequate income. What you are getting is not corresponding to what you spend. Then we are still on economic. Lack of productive assets such as plows, hoes, oxen, fishing nets, canoes in rural areas. That is in rural areas. They want to farm, but they have no hoes, they have no plows, they have no oxen, they have no fishing nets, they have no canoes to use. So this is defined as what? Poverty in rural areas. Social status. Social status, inequality. Inequality. Is there fairness between men and women or female and males? Low self-esteem. How much do you value yourself? How much do you value yourself? Landlessness. No access to land. You don't have where to build your house. You don't have where to build your premises. You don't have any land. Social status. That is poverty. Then political participation. That is number 4. Powerlessness. Lack of political voice. Lack of access to legal institution. That is courts of law. You have no access to what? Legal institutions. That is only social political status. Sorry. Political status.